Question.
A question on attachment.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, I've been thinking about this, and I was wondering, are human bonds the same as attachment, or are they different?
Good, 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 good. One of the paradigms that's really gained ascendance in the West is the notion of attachment and attachment theory.
Right.
And this started probably with Bowlby, I think it was, who no, it wasn't Bowlby, it was Heinz, Hoffmann Heinz, or some German guy who noted that when he was walking around his pond, if he did it at a certain period in the baby ducklings or baby geese development,
Mm-hmm.
they would imprint on him and follow
Mm-hmm.
him around like he was the mother.
Right.
And this was such a huge discovery, right? Although it was probably already well known. You know, we have to rediscover everything in the West because we're too, I don't know, too jingoistic to study what's already been done in the East. But
Right.
so he noticed that these ducklings, these little birds, would imprint onto him onto a dog. And so a lot of what you see in the internet when you see the duck and the dog and they're the best friends and all this and that,
Yep.
that's because they imprinted when they were young.
Yep.
So that's called imprinting. From that came the notion of bonding, and there's most certainly something that does occur between the mother and child, for
Mm-hmm.
as a paradigm example, in which there is a mutual imprinting or a mutual bonding. Okay.
Yep.
Now we fast forward and we get to uh, modern psychology, psychotherapy, theories and stuff, and we get to attachment. And then someone decides, some bright person decides, well, there's three or four kinds of attachment. There's secure, there's disorganized, there's uh, anxious, and there's some other one.
Right.
But the point is that attachment is the wrong word, and it's the wrong construct. There is a reciprocal relationship between the mother and the child, between
Mm-hmm.
the boyfriend and the girlfriend, between the teenager and the parents. There's a reciprocity of interaction, and they color each other. So let me give you a perfect example of why it's important to make that differentiation. In the early parts of the 20th century, mothers were blamed. They were called refrigerator mothers because they did not act normally around their autistic baby. And it was thought that the mother caused the autism because she was so cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was doubly unfortunate. So the theory was that if you had a cold mother, if and she didn't attach to the child didn't attach to her, then no, that would prevent the child from attaching to her.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the root of the child's psychopathology, severe autism. I mean severe autism. And some of them can be very intelligent, right? Some of these autistic kids. At any rate, that's obviously ridiculous because it's the reciprocity of the interaction. So the mother would reach out to the child and try and interact with the child, but the child wouldn't even make eye contact. The child
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't imprint normally, wouldn't bond normally, and wouldn't form a normal reciprocal relationship.
Right.
And so this is why, for half of my life, I've said we need to get rid of attachment as a construct, and we need to look at reciprocal connectedness as a much more uh,
Mm-hmm.
fruitful way of looking at this, because it's not one direction. Oh, the child is attached, or the girlfriend's attached. It's a reciprocity of interaction. And so let's say a person, there's two people in a relationship, but one's moving this way, then this one's going may move this way, right? Or
Yep.
they may move this way, right? Or they could move this. They could. There's any number of configurations, but they're reciprocal. They affect each other.
Right.
You can't take anything in this universe in isolation. And so and and that's especially true for human beings if you're trying to understand them or trying to understand yourself. I hope that helps us. There's a lot of I did a lot of YouTubes on this, but they're ancient.
Mm.
And but I think they're still timely because people are still using this attachment theory Uh,
Oh, people use it a lot. So I think
yeah, that's a
it's
real
good.
problem because it's attachment is just one, it's not even half of it. It's reciprocal connectedness, and just like we learned from the Buddhists, there's no such thing as an independent entity. Everything is interacting with everything, always. And so if you try and isolate something completely, like a symptom in the mind or in the body, and don't
Right.
include the entire context, then you're going to miss it, right? And you're going to have a partial understanding, you're going to have a partial solution, and you're going to have only partial relief and partial growth, right?
Right.
So
And
thank you
so
for bringing that up. That's a very important point, and we should at some point maybe I should revisit that.
yeah, I think that'd be useful for people. And a follow up on this: when the Buddhists say avoid all attachments, um, are these reciprocal connections? Is that part of it, or is that just completely separate?
Well,
And
they'd
what?
say avoid cling. It's difficult to translate, but it's more it's like clinging, or being attached to your identity. You're attached to identity, right? So get unattached from that identity, right? You're attached to your car. Well, sooner or later your car's going to get scratched by somebody in a parking lot. So you might be a little lighter about that. And so it's remember, all this is in translation. It's from the second century at best, right?
Right.
And so clinging, attachment, undue identification with, what they really don't want you attached to is concepts. I mean, you can have the most beautiful mansion in the world, right? That's fine. Just don't be attached to it. Don't make it part of your identity. And unfortunately, that's what people do. They say, "Well, I'm a rich man, so I have to have a big house and a fancy car," or "I'm a poor man. I have to have poor clothes and not eat any food," right? But in
Mm-hmm.
both cases, they're attached to the identity. And what they're counseling is be fluid, be free in this world. Don't be attached to one tribe, one identity. Well, within, oh boy,
So is it useful here? I
go
was
ahead.
thinking about it. I was using in the past. You've used like the animal model to kind of distinguish things sometimes, like how would dogs act, and I've heard stories about like dogs that get depressed and sick after their dog friend dies, or the owner is gone or passes away or something, right? And
Well, okay, those are domestic dogs.
yeah,
Now, if in the wild, yeah, the animals do. Uh,
but the dogs don't have concepts, right? Do they? I
no, humanized dogs certainly do have concepts.
really?
Well, they have the concept. Well, I don't. They don't have the mental concept, but they're in the present, right? And it's more like an association. So
Mm-hmm.
if every time, if I ring this bell and give a piece of meat,
Yeah,
so what would you call that? Would you call that a concept, or would you call that a paired association, or would you call that a, a memory for a stimulus, right? But by
yeah,
evoking that stimulus, you can then evoke the unconditioned response.
yeah.
But see, that's a conditioned response because it's to a bell or to a red light. Humans can do that to dogs
Mm-hmm.
in artificial circumstances. Otherwise, they're just kind of chill. They're just out in the wild like other animals. And if they see something good to eat, they eat it. If it's not good to eat, they don't eat it. If they don't have anything to eat, they go hungry a bit. If they're full, they don't eat, right? So it's very important. Once creatures come in contact with man, then we start to imbue them with some of these constructs.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes deliberately, sometimes inadvertently. And dogs in particular are very, very sensitive to human emotion and moods.
Right.
So yeah, I think we have to differentiate dogs, which were literally bred and selected for their capacity to commune with the human psyche, the human mood, the human. That's why we love them, because they feel with us
Yeah.
and they feel for us. But let's not read too much into that. A lot of that is emotional contagion and conditioned learning. That's an abbreviation of a really interesting topic. But let's keep going.
Yeah.
question?
That's all I had.
Okay. So do you want to do any follow-up for any of these? I didn't realize we had a little time, and then I could drill down on wherever you want.
Like on offline or still?
Uh, for here, and then yeah, on online for now.
Okay. Let me see.
One thing that we might free associate to is dreams, the interpretation of dreams, because this is where Freud and others have gotten going way back before before Western civilization was even thought possible. In dreams, there can be symbols that emerge, and those symbols can represent parts of the body, and they can represent symptom complexes. And there's a language and an intelligence there. Then this is Jung understood this as well, and he understood the symbology also of the Jung, by the way, Jung, Carl Jung. And so there's a whole rich area there for exploration by contemporary people of what was, and this is all falling out of fashion, by the way, in favor of a strict taxonomy and doing it by the book. You know, okay, well, this is narcissistic personality. Oh, okay, this is obsessive compulsive. I don't know, you know, but instead, there's a whole world in dream symbols in which you can investigate your own psyche and your own body in a way if you set your intent. And so intent becomes really important when dealing with a pain body, for example, or dealing with a conversion reaction where your body's developing symptoms in response to a psychological conflict or neurosis, or where there's issues or anxieties around your connection with another, you know, the reciprocal connection that's so vital to all of us. And so all of these things are ripe to be investigated, rediscovered, resuscitated, because we're entering a dark age. It looks very much like we're entering the dark age, scientifically at least, and maybe more broadly culturally. And so it's going to be important for people to be guardians of truth and of insight and of wisdom, right? This is a very important function. Okay, anything after that, or shall we?
No, that's all.
Okay, good. Have a great day, sir.